Hi, good morning to everybody. Very pleased to be here. Well, I want to talk about three things about adaptation, not necessarily fund issue, which I'm not really asked. The first question is where we are on the adaptation, what kind of information we are getting on the adaptation. The second point I want to talk about is what kind of lessons we are learning as a financial institution. The third issue I want to talk is how we want to go forward. So starting with the first issue of what kind of information we are getting or where we are on the adaptation. I think the previous speaker or that kind of emphasized that more and more evidence appearing that the climate has been changing much faster than originally we were thinking. And as a result, there is a much more shared recognition that adaptation needs to be addressed more and faster. For instance, last week I was in Davos, and the World Economic Forum published that the Global Risk 2013, and as always, the GHG emission remains that one of the highest risks. But at the same time, failure to adapt to climate change also being highly equally recognized as a big danger or the risk. As you may know, maybe 2 days ago, that my colleague from the World Bank may informed you that they published this famous 4-degree report, basically telling us that the world is now entering into the 4-degree. If we don't take an action, bold action today, and in the 4-degree world, adaptation become almost impossible, or actually that it will come with a very devastating consequences. That GEF, Global Environment Facility, which I'm now heading, also published a report about 2 months ago, and it also emphasized the point that the temperature projected by the end of this century will be much higher than any of the scenario that the IPCC AR4 envisaged. So that in that kind of world, that many ecosystems really cannot adapt, and many of the important ecosystems may be actually stepping outside the tipping point. So we will really have a very dangerous situation. It's the new finding tell us that climate change is occurring much more rapidly than the trees can adapt. So in the near future, say 60% of tree species actually that showed their geographic ranges are contracting. So and in that kind of world, standard ways of conservation practices may not be sufficient to address those climate changes. So we are really entering into the uncharted sea. So that's the number one topic. The second topic I want to touch upon is what kind of lessons we are learning in terms of adaptation. The GEF, Global Environment Facility, is actually the financial mechanism for 3 conventions: climate change, biodiversity, and land degradation. All of 3 were born in the 20 years ago at the first Rio Earth Summit. Yesterday, Jeffrey Sachs mentioned that all those 3 conventions are rated F by quality magazine Nature. And I was wondering that then what they rate as the GEF, which has been the financial mechanism for those foundations, those conventions. But whatever they rated us, at least for the last 20 years or so, we have been accumulating a lot of expertise or knowledge, or lessons, how we want to adapt, how what we have been learning for the adaptation. So far, I think I can say maybe couple of things. The well-known, well-proven model for the adaptation is, say, the ecosystem-based adaptation, as well as a community-based adaptation, particularly including women, because as a previous speaker already mentioned, how to enhance the resilience of the community and how to enhance the ecosystem, resilience of the ecosystem are the key to the adaptation. And in many cases, those two are kind of reinforcing with each other. Another point I want to mention is that, again, that several previous speakers mentioned, there are numerous cases of multi-benefit produced. Well, basically, how to manage the natural resources in a sustainable manner, together with how to increase the livelihood, so that there are many, many interesting lessons and already shown. At the same time, again, that some other speakers mentioned, every country, every sector has a very different unique conditions, so it's not necessarily always easily translated or replicated. A lot of effort needs to be put in place. My last point of the adaptation is how we want to go forward with this big challenge and some kind of lessons already accumulated. Yesterday, again, I think that Tom Friedman of New York Times tell us that we are facing the systemic problem. So we need a systemic approach, a systemic solution. I actually cannot agree more than that. The GEF, my institution, is disbursing about $1 billion US annually. But given this huge challenge, and increasing challenge, I sometimes feel that we are just a drop into the ocean. So how we can systematically achieve that results at scale and with speed, and we definitely need a systemic approach. I think I can think of maybe two things in terms of global environment facility. First one is a kind of quick fix kind of thing, how to mainstream adaptations throughout the project we are doing. For instance, and many other IFIs like the World Bank or ADB have been already adapting a kind of resilience lens, or how to mainstream the climate change risks into their own operation. So that kind of introduction of the resilience filter, it's something that we could really think of in order to mainstream the adaptation into the operation, into our operation across sector. But maybe more importantly, how to approach this issue more systematically. For instance, that we tend to do more like an individual project here and there without really thinking how these things do add up. Are we really achieving more than the summation of those projects? So one way of thinking is that could we do more like a, for instance, city-based approach, so that we can address that several sectoral issue at one place, say that the energy efficiency, the sustainable transport, and the water resources and the waste at city basis, where how we can also address the food supply, sustainable food supply chain. Several speakers mentioned that the food security issue, so that by thinking that how we can more systematically, more comprehensively address those challenges together, it seems that's the way to go. Jeff is now actually embarking our 10-year long-term strategy in order to actually connect those dots to achieve the catalytic, to catalyze the systematic or transformational change, so that your inputs to this process is very much welcome. Thank you so much.